Welcome back to Living Zen. I'm Eshū. Before we get into today's talk, I want to mention I've launched 2 new ways to support your Zen journey. There's an Orientation to Zen Support program, which is really meant as a personal add-on to the free orientation resources that are always available at zenwest.ca. And there's also a Zen training and mentorship track for those who are looking for more in-depth practice support. You can find out more at monarchtranswork.com. All right, on to the talk. Over the past week, I've been kind of reflecting on my experiences of attending Dharma talks and my experiences of giving Dharma talks. And how different teachers approach things in different ways, and how we as students of the way approach connecting with Dharma talks. And some teachers I've experienced approach them like lectures. They make notes beforehand, and they some people even read them like a paper presentation or something. Some teachers want the students to all sort of turn and face them so that they can sort of talk directly to the people. And the thing that I've really come to realize in my practice is that in each zendo, in each temple, each teacher, as much as there's a lineage, as much as there's a tradition, each teacher expresses the Dharma in their own way, makes relationship in their own way. There's this term in Zen, the wind of the master's hall. And this is usually used when a student from one center goes to another center or another temple. And through their practice, the teacher at that place can experience the wind of their master's hall. They know about the teacher because of the practice of the student. Because when it comes to every aspect of a practice center, of a form, of a way, they're like the tools of a teacher, how the form is carried. So when I came back to Zenwest, a month or 2 months ago, stepping back in to my own tools, I guess, and seeing old friends, old tools, old structures and forms, and feeling like, I've let these things get rusty. I need to oil them and bang the dirt out of them and get things sort of effective again, sharp. And the same goes with Dharma talks. The way that I first experienced Dharma talks as a student, the way that I was taught about Dharma talks from the beginning, is that these aren't lectures from the mind to the mind, from the intellect to the intellect. It's interesting to come back to it after so many years, because when I first started practicing Zen, I was an incredibly logical-minded person. I struggled a lot with sort of Zen as a religious practice or as a spiritual practice. It's a philosophy, it's a way of life, it's a practice, all these things. And I've told the story many times of this realization I had when I was the Jikijitsu at the main temple in Los Angeles and doing prostrations, offering incense at this Butsudan that's probably, 15 feet tall, full prostrations on this great mat, and thinking, kind of getting an out-of-body, sort of seeing myself and saying, if somebody saw me doing this, they might think I was a religious person. Shaved head, wearing robes. And now there's the aspects that I received, teachings that I received about Dharma talks when I was first starting are sinking in more. Not just the verbal teachings, but the teachings that come through the form, come through the tradition. Oftentimes at the beginning of a sesshin, there's this sort of formal starting to this intensive, and everybody gathers in the hall, and then the teacher comes in, and they're introduced as the guide. It's announced who the guide is. And one of the names that is sort of tacked on to the front of the teacher is Manju, Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom. And in a way, it's like saying the teacher is stepping into the role of Manjushri for this sesshin. They are embodying the role of the Bodhisattva. And so in a way, it's kind of like stepping back from the personhood, the individual personhood of the teacher during that sesshin, so that they can be free to act with the deepest wisdom that they can connect with. And in some traditions of Buddhism, completely in the opposite direction of this lecture, this sort of scholastic lecture, or the sort of like conversation. Some traditions, the teacher, when they give a talk, actually sits behind a screen so that you can't see them at all. You can't sort of connect with them as an individual person at all. You just hear the talk. And in a lot of ways, this is the way my first teacher taught, was just sit, no looking around, just sit and listen. And when we come from a sort of Western, especially academic perspective, it's really hard to do because we don't want to miss anything. We don't want to sort of like drift off. We want to be engaged. We want to sort of hear everything. But in the way that I was taught, it's, as a teacher, the teacher is sitting with a group of people. And in my experience, the talk doesn't come from me. The talk doesn't come, I don't start the day with an idea, I'm going to talk about this. I shouldn't say I don't. Sometimes I do. But oftentimes if I do, I don't talk about that thing because something else comes up. So I kind of gave up. So you sit with the group of people, and it's like, what is happening in the Zendo and beyond that? What is happening in the lives and the practice of the people who are in the Zendo as you're sitting together draws the Dharma through you as a teacher, draws it into you. And the only way that it kind of comes out is through getting yourself out of the way as the teacher. I don't know what I'm going to talk about when I sit down. Sometimes I don't remember totally clearly after what I've spoken about. So if you're sitting and you find yourself drifting, you don't hear what the teacher's saying, you missed a bit, you're off in a thought cloud or something like this. I think the tendency we can have is, oh, bad student. Oh, I drifted off. Oh, that's terrible. But when we're giving Dharma talks, we're giving them to a whole room of people that are all in different places in their lives and all in different places in their practice. You'll also find that during a Dharma talk that there are points where you tune in sharply, where you feel completely connected to what's being addressed in the Dharma talk. Many times people will say, I felt like you were talking right to me. And in those moments, I was going to say I am, but the Dharma is speaking to you through me. My job is to get out of the way. There's a connection that's made there. And then in the next breath, the talk moves on. So in some ways, my approach is like, don't approach it like it's a lecture. Don't approach it like you don't want to miss anything for the exam. It's like rain. You don't catch every drop. Every drop isn't meant for you. The ones that are, you can't miss. There's no berating yourself. Just staying true to your practice, staying true to this engagement that you're in, this is the way. This form that we have, that we use, I think even some of you who have been coming for a little while have felt the shift in it and the clarity in it and the impact that clarity has on the sits. There's a functional practice. There's a function to the practice, to the form. When we're really clear with a form, it allows us to really settle in. It allows us to communicate without a lot of words or confusion or what are we doing now. It just allows us to sort of drop right into the meditation practice that we're doing, drop right into the walking, drop right into the bowing, to give ourselves over to it, to get ourselves out of the way, to let the bowing do the bowing, to let the walking do the walking, to let the sitting do the sitting. Every teacher's form, every group's form is going to be a little bit different. But what's important is that practice, that form is really clear, because that form is a mirror. When I started practice, I was a young man. And the way of training in those days was very kind of militant. And the form was used like a bat. And it was like a game for the person who was the jikijitsu, the head of the hall. They were like watching everybody. How are you playing this game? Are you any good at it? And I'm going to catch you in the tiniest gap in your attention if you bow the wrong way. I loved it. I was good at the game. Discipline is important. But there's two kinds of discipline. There is the external kind, where you've got someone who's watching you and making sure you don't put your toe over the line and letting you know every time you do. I loved that kind of stuff when I was young. But as I've grown older, what I've realized is that kind of discipline, it has its place. Don't get me wrong. I'm still sort of inclined that way. But what I also find is that it creates hiding. It creates fear. It creates, doesn't create, but it fuels self-criticism. In my experience working with people for decades now, I've never met a person that's short on self-criticism, that's short on saying, oh, you suck, to themselves. So the job of telling someone they did it wrong in a really public, loud voice, sit still, I don't know how helpful it is. And further, I like to imagine that I'm practicing with adults who are here by choice, who want to practice for the benefit of all beings, for awakening, to cultivate compassion and wisdom and harmonious, interdependent, reciprocal relationships. And those things are the fruits of an open heart. And an open heart doesn't show up so easily when there's a lot of fear. So the form is there, and my job as a teacher is to sort of offer that form as a gift. And the invitation for everybody in a practice place is to embrace that form as a mirror. It's a consensual process. We're going to sit like this. We're going to walk like this. I'm going to commit myself to really giving myself fully to manifest this form. And the way that it's a mirror is that you yourself, we're sitting here breathing, paying attention to our breath, paying attention to our posture, paying attention to everything that's going on around us, paying attention. And so the practice is just being really clear and really being honest with yourself and being compassionate with yourself. So as we practice, oh, my fingers fell apart. I'm not maintaining I've sort of managed to slouch over as I'm sitting. Just be aware of it. And bring yourself back to the beginning. Sit up. Bring your thumbs back together if you're counting your breath. Coming back to the breath. Starting over again. Without beating yourself up. Without feeling like you've failed or done something wrong or being ashamed. Just starting over again. Being honest that, oh yeah, I committed to doing this form, to doing this practice. Recommit. It's a lesson through our whole lives, whether we're working or whether we're trying to learn something, whether we're making a relationship with another person, friend, romantic partner, whatever. Whether we're walking through the garden, whether we decide we're going to take a stroll down by the beach and watch the sunset, hike through the forest and just enjoy the trees. It's a practice of returning to intention. What's my intention in doing this activity? What's my intention in making this relationship? What's my intention in doing this work? And through our lives are incredibly complex because it's not like I'm just doing my work, I'm just doing my hike. I'm also making a relationship. I'm also, acting in the environment. So the practice that we have here is really like a stripped down life concentrate where we have an opportunity to just really apply ourselves honestly with the intention of being present with this simple activity of breathing, of manifesting harmoniously with the people that we're in the room with, of chanting. Simple, simple, simple. And we can carry that capacity that we're developing to just keep bringing ourselves back. Oh, I started thinking about something else. Oh, I'm writing my book right now in my head. Or, I'm creating the menu for my next meal. All right, I'm practicing right now. Let's come back to that. Contrary to popular belief, I cannot read what's going on in your mind. So as you sit there quietly, I don't know what you're doing inside. Sometimes I can tell when we're walking, when we're bowing, when we're ringing bells or sounding the drums or doing activities in the Zendo. I can tell by the clarity of that activity. Are you here fully? It's just like watching an actor on the stage. You can tell when the actor is completely immersed in the role and no part of the actor is there, it's only the character. The difference of somebody who's not quite off book yet. They're worried about forgetting their lines. They're not fully immersed. It's the same kind of quality. In the activity of our lives, how powerful is it when we're making our meal and our intention is to make ourselves something healthy that's going to fuel our body and it's going to taste delicious. If you can hold that intention, that focus as you prepare your food, it's miraculous. The food is miraculous. If your intention when you're having a conversation with a friend or with your partner is to just fully make loving relationship with that person, you're not getting distracted about what's next, about finances, about anything else, just bringing yourself back to the intention of being with that person wholeheartedly, with an open heart. The impact is miraculous. And for many of us, that miraculous activity, that activity of the manifestation of compassion and wisdom, can begin with this simple activity of bringing yourself fully into the intention of sitting, just being, breathing, bowing, chanting. On the one hand, you're not going to get it right away. That's why it's called a practice. And
On the other hand, right away is the only way that you do get it. The perception, the awareness, that was something. I was really there. I really heard the bell. I really smelled the incense. I really disappeared, dissolved into that bow. That's sudden. And of course, the reflection on it, the awareness, I just did that, the sort of review that we give ourselves is an indication that we've already stepped outside of that practice. We're now looking at the activity of the past. And so our next step is to return to that intention, letting go, returning to our intention of just being here, just doing this breath, just sitting and being open. I'm so grateful that you're all here doing this practice. Lots of people can say, meditation, what a waste of time, navel gazing. But I know that what we're doing here is embedding the miraculous activity into our minds and our hearts and our bodies over and over again. Yes, we do it here, but that miraculous practice isn't limited to this space. When we start manifesting it in our bodies and in our hearts and in our minds, there's nothing else that can happen than for us to begin to carry it out into the world, into our work and into our relationships, into the environment. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about Dharma, when I talk about practice as medicine. This world needs medicine. So thank you for taking the time and exerting yourself to make of yourselves the miraculous medicine that this world so needs.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like early access to these Dharma talks and a look behind the scenes at this practice life, come join me on Patreon at patreon.com/redmountainway. And if you're feeling called to go deeper, do take a look at the new programs at monarchtrancework.com. As always, free orientation resources are waiting for you anytime at zenwest.ca. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.